Good afternoon, everyone. So in our 2018 budget, the Victoria Police Department identified the need for 6 additional officers for frontline positions. These positions were needed to respond to 911 and other high priority calls. To maintain public safety, the Victoria Police Department deploys a number of officers in a series of roles, which can roughly be categorized into frontline positions and non-frontline positions. The frontline officers are the ones who respond to 911 and non-emergency calls for service, most commonly assigned to what's called our patrol division. Non-frontline officers are generally not the first to respond to calls, but are nonetheless essential in providing a range of policing services to our communities. Increases in calls for service, call complexity, and provincially mandated policy and disclosure requirements are greatly increasing the demands on VicPD officers. Injuries to our frontline officers has also had an impact on our workforce. That is why the Victoria Police Department requested funding for 6 additional police officers in our 2018 budget, along with 2 additional civilian staff positions. This combined request was presented to the Victorian Esquimalt Police Board, which supported it. The request was then presented to the councils of the City of Victoria and the Township of Esquimalt, and approval of both councils is required under the framework agreement. Unfortunately, we were not successful in securing required funding from both councils. While I am hopeful that we might be able to secure the required funding in the future, I have to address the staffing challenges that we continue to experience on our frontline policing efforts. Our frontline officers are busy. The volume of calls, the severity of calls, and the caseload per officer is amongst the highest in the province of BC. Policing in the 21st century is highly complex and requires more officers, more time to investigate. That is a reality. Despite the increased demands placed on our officers, despite the population growth in both communities, despite increased community expectations, despite Victoria having the 3rd highest illicit drug overdoses in this province for 2 years in a row, we have not had an increase to our frontline staffing in over 8 years. As a result, the only option I have is to reassign 6 officers to frontline duties. 4 will be going to the patrol division and 2 to our newly created alternate response unit, which we commonly refer to as the ARU. The ARU will provide immediate response by taking lower priority calls for service over the phone, and it'll reduce the physical dispatch of an officer to these type of calls. So it's an efficient way of delivering service. The positions that are being reassigned are as follows. All 3 school liaison officers will be reassigned. 2 work in the City of Victoria, and 1 is assigned to schools in Esquimalt. Our analysis and intelligence constable, our reserve program constable, and 1 of our beat officers from our community services division. Now, the 3 school liaison officers provide in-school presence. They participate in school and in community events, and they really are the main point of contact between the Victoria Police Department, between students, teachers, administrators, and also parents. The analysis and intelligence constable position provides investigative action and support to our intelligence-led policing model, assisting in gathering information and evidence. The analysis and intelligence unit provide all the crime analysis for the Victoria Police Department, including identifying crime trends, identifying prolific offenders, and providing criminal intelligence services. The Reserve Program Constable is a sole officer overseeing our Reserve Program, which consists of 65 Reserve Constables. The Reserve Constables provide crime prevention services to both communities, including support to programs such as Block Watch and delivering crime prevention programs, fraud talks, and much, much more. The Reserve Constables also provide augmenting our officers in the late night task force, deployments, and also our counterattack roadblocks. and traffic control at public events. The Reserve Program Constable also oversees a couple of other programs, such as the Crime-Free Multi-Housing Program and also the Victoria Police Bike Registry Program. And finally, the beat officer from our Community Services Division. They patrol on foot in the downtown core and other community areas. These officers often participate in proactive policing initiatives with the aim of reducing impacts of street disorder. They are often strong advocates for community-based solutions to the ongoing challenges of poverty, homelessness, mental illness, and addictions. So to summarize, this redeployment will eliminate the school liaison officers, their role entirely, and reduce sworn officer capacity in our analysis and intelligence unit by 1/2, and restructure the entire Reserve Constable Program, resulting in one less beat officer on the street as well. The reallocation of positions is not taken lightly, and it does not suggest in any way that the 6 positions were not valued or that the officers that were filling these positions were not doing their job or not performing at the highest level. In fact, they were. For example, I know how valuable the school liaison officers are. As a parent, as a past school liaison officer, and as a police chief, I'm convinced of the important role that they play in our schools and in our community. But even with that knowledge, I have no choice but to transfer them to frontline policing duties to ensure that we have the resources and the capacity to respond to calls for service. The primary consideration was organizational and community risk, both immediate and long-term. Positions that represent the lowest short-term organizational community risk were considered a higher priority for potential reallocation. Consideration was also given to the language and the principles contained within the framework agreement, our statutory responsibilities under the Police Act, and the collateral impact of the reallocation of one position on the other positions and functions and the ripple effect that it has on the organization. The overall assessment by the senior management team of the Victoria Police Department really was that no reallocation options are desirable, and that's just a fact. All reallocations will have a major impact on the services that are provided by the Victoria Police Department and the overall operations, but I can tell you that they're necessary as we move forward to relieve the workload pressures that we face on our front lines. We also continue to look at ways to be more efficient and to deploy officers in the best way possible, to limit our resource requests to an absolute minimum. The preliminary timelines, we will see these transfers taking place is between now and the end of June, so we're making sure there's a proper transition plan in place to move these 6 positions to the front lines. And again, I'll just finish off with this, that my preference really was not to reallocate any positions. I really do want to continue to provide a full range of policing services that our citizens expect us to provide. However, the demands placed on our frontline officers really require me to act now and to act quickly.